So first of all, I'll start the presentation with a quote that we were all inspired by, which was, "A good game lives with us all our entire life." So based on that, we've created a game. But as we all know, the gaming industry has evolved rapidly for the past few years to where no longer controls are needed. We're able to move with sensors. This is just an example of many. So we decided to take a step back and create a classic game, but with a modern twist. You'll see what I mean later on. Yeah. This is just a timeline of our game. So initially, our game was meant to be a VR reality game, which was inspired by a game called The Lab, where it will allow you to pick characters from 3. So you had Harry Potter, Goku from Dragon Ball, or Super Mario. However, we are unable to do this due to not meeting spec requirements and resources. So later on, we were faced with...
Well, we wanted to find out an idea more of what we're going to change our game to now. So we made a questionnaire, and following our name, Project Retro, we wanted that combination of retro with a new style to it. We gave the questionnaire out, handed it out to get responses on what people thought on our ideas of using Dragon Ball Z and linking it with Mario and then making it 3D type of Mario game. And that's what we got from our research.
Yeah, after we found out that we can't actually make the game after you told us, we were really disappointed. We had our initial plan, which was Harry Potter. We had to change this, scrap the entire idea and go to a new idea. So immediately we had a new design. We had a meeting, we threw around the ideas, so mix and match. We came about with Dragon Ball Z. We found out that most of us here, actually 3 of us, we actually still watch Dragon Ball Z, the series. We are fairly up to date. So most of us, we like Dragon Ball Z. We have played Mario style games before in some point in our lives, so I think it was fairly simple and really enjoyable game to make.
Okay, so as you can see, Goku's really confused there because I guess you're all wondering who is he, what's he doing, and stuff like that. So Goku is a character from the Dragon Ball franchise. The main enemy from our game is the Cyberman, green over here. And he's basically trying to stop Goku from achieving the end goal. Why is Goku doing what he's doing? Well, he's trying to get to the Dragon Ball, which is at the end of the level, which is the main objective. There's a certain time frame in which he takes. So the game has a 4-minute timer, and what he has to do to obtain the final goal is collect food on the way. So each one of the food items has a numerical value. I think it's 100 in this case, right? So in total, we want to get 2,000 points to set off a trigger which will bring the Dragon Ball down from a volcano.
And you might be thinking what Dragon Ball is. Explain.
Yeah, so Dragon Ball within the Dragon Ball Z franchise is one of 7 balls. One of 7 balls which allow you to, it basically, you gather them and you can summon a dragon which will grant you any 3 wishes you want.
Yep.
So the game's first level is gathering the first Dragon Ball of the 7.
So the next stage was to assign roles to team members. And as I was appointed the project manager, I was in charge of making sure that everyone in the team was best utilized. So then Josh Lee was very passionate about, and he came with prior knowledge in C#. So it was very clear that he was going to be the main lead. Along with that, Javier he was also very passionate, and he's got experience in other languages as well. So he was these 2 were the main lead in scripting for the game. Dejan, who played a key role in our game, he was the manager for all the audio. Without the audio, the game will not be a fraction of what it is. I myself, on the other hand, took the role for all the design stuff, which included the UI, level design, and the particle effects for the game. And would you guys like to elaborate a bit more on what you actually did?
My part with the sound, making sure there was sound for Goku when he starts the game, making sure there's background music for the game and the menus, making sure that there's music for when they collect food and when he fights the enemies. So just making sure that's there and making it link a bit with the GUI side as well, and giving the timer and stuff like that. Okay.
For me, along with Harvey, we were building on scripts, and I was also working on the character animation controller, which is basically like a state machine for the game.
Okay, so with the AI, what I had to do was do the pathing and the scripting for the character, for the enemy, which you guys saw before the Cyberman. Just like Joyce had to do the controller, I had to do a controller for the Cyberman. So those state, like I said, the state machine fits in well with the enemy.
You will see further down, you will see how the state machine works in our game.
So Gansha, after we had assigned roles, the next thing was to do was set a time scale of all the key tasks that we hope to complete and by when. So we grouped it down into pre-production, production, and post-production. And within that, there were a few discrepancies. So we can see that in our production, we were hoped to complete it with 3 weeks. However, in reality, it took us longer than 3 weeks. That was due to limitations and team members being absent, which we'll discuss later on.
Yep, challenges. There were a few challenges that we faced. Karen, your group, I respect you guys. You've gone through a lot. You had a lot of challenges. We had our fair bit of challenges as well. Some of them, I think you've faced this as well. They were mostly skills and scripting wise, because we had to learn entirely a new language. We've never come across C# before. Well, most of our team members haven't, including you guys. Yeah, lack of knowledge. So that was like the hardest part to like really develop for us. Time management was another one. It was key because there were a lot of wants and needs. There were a fair bit of wants which we couldn't fit in the game. So if we had managed our time more efficiently, we could have put more wants in our games. Just like time management, attendance is also something like a risk factor, which you can't actually predict. Say today you could be sick and you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, that kind of thing. Since we are college students, we are low on funds. Not all of us have jobs, how we would know. Yes, so I've seen like on the Unity tutorials and like some of the assets, they are actually paid. I've seen a fair bit of controllers. There's a lot of like assets which are actually paid. I said $50, $60, and we didn't actually want to like put the money in the game because we don't actually know if those ones work, and we don't know how to actually use them properly. So spending like $100 on these kind of assets wouldn't be fair for us.
So solutions. So like Josh was talking about the challenges, we had to find appropriate solutions to rectify those challenges. So the first one was the skills and knowledge one. We had loads of tutorials from lynda.com and YouTube, which helped a lot. Because we were doing C for the first time, we had to understand the syntax, and YouTube and tutorials online really helped with building a good foundation. Prioritizing workload. So the group leader here, she did a great job because she every group meeting we would sit down and we would assign roles for each other based on whatever was due that week. So sometimes it was like if the assignment was due in say 2 weeks, we would highlight each point which we would want each other to do, and we'd discuss where our skills lie best. So one example is with the skills audit, I was given that task, and so I was to correctly identify everybody's key skills for the actual programming and the creation of the game. Communication, so because attendance sometimes was an issue, we used WhatsApp and we were able to use Google Docs to communicate, so we could all work on the document at the same time. And if that wasn't possible, we would most likely have our phones on us so we could communicate through WhatsApp. And the biggest key factor there was using Unity collaboration. We were able to use Unity seamlessly together, so we were all developing at the same time, even if we weren't in the same room. So when Dejan was working on the audio, Farhan was working on the UI, and it was perfect because it was cohesive. And the best of all, because like you actually said, paying for assets is kind of out of our budget, and we were able to get free assets from Unity using the low poly pack. And we developed a few assets of our own, like the bridges, which Farhan did a great job on. The bridges, I mean, even though the scaling was a bit off, I've got to mention that.
Just to add on to what he said, managing these group of people who are very extroverted was a difficult challenge as it is. So every week, it was very hard to get them all to focus. But when we were focused, it was like perfect. And yeah, so it became a game of like, you didn't do this, so I can't do this. But we overcame all these issues. Now, just to show our gameplay, and I'll begin by saying, all right, let's go.
So if you don't know, that's just a little throwback to the actual game.
Just so the
First sound.
Oh, that's so late.
Is the sound working on this?
It is, yes.
So
Good,
the
yeah.
first thing that you'll notice when you start the game is the items on the floor, which are the food. So like I mentioned before, collecting the food is one of the main objectives in the game. And this is just some of the gameplay to see how you collect food. And there, what you saw at the end was just an attack. So the character can run, jump, attack.
Run backwards, that's when
You can straight left, straight right.
Yep, this video will be showing you guys the player movements and attacking enemies. So, as you can see, the main protagonist is attacking the enemies, Cybermen. As you can see on the top left hand side, there's the health bar. So when the enemies attack you, the health bar goes down. One attack equals to 2% of the health bar. Another video showing attacks as well. There's fairly a lot of enemies in the scene. So you can see it's following the player. And I'm trying to run away from the enemy. Yeah, so this is going to be the animation controller. I talked about this earlier. That's the state machine for the game, or the animation controller. So I've actually loaded the game here. When it runs, you can see that's the idle animation. When he runs back, it goes to here. That's the attack. So these are connected via conditions. So each of these lines here, this took over about 30, 40 hours to make from scratch. It was really hard to make. These animations were imported from a website. We got this, we actually made it and put it on the website. So they actually link to the controller, not the controller, the animator,
The buttons.
the player character. So it's like the skeleton. It actually links to
Is
the
it that
skeleton.
Mixamo or Maxamo?
Mixamo, yeah.
Yeah.
You might have heard of this. Yeah, so all of these animations were imported from there. So these are connected via the conditions.
Mhm.
So if you press W, it goes to run. If you press space, it goes to jump from there to there. So it's connected to all of this. Yeah, a lot of time and effort. This.
Just to add on to that, so everything is linked to the idle state. Because from the idle position, you can go to straight to running, straight to jumping. So it was very clever the way Joshi's done it. It's much more natural this way instead of having to progressively go from a walk to a run.
Mm-hmm.
It works much well in him. It's more fluid.
Yeah, just to make it fluid as well. These ones are connected to the other ones. So, like Javier said, it goes from left to directly right or left to back directly here. So it's connected.
So there's quite a few loose conditions. One here you'll see is if you go to the water, Goku can't swim. He might be able to beat enemies, but no, he can't swim at all. So I'll just run that again. As you can see, the minute you go near the water and essentially fall in, you trigger the lose condition. From here you can restart the level or just exit.
Yep, this is the game over timer. So in the bottom right here, you can see the timer of the game. The timer starts from about 5 minutes. We made it about 5 minutes. If the timer goes below 1 minute, it changes the message that's displayed on the screen. So it's gonna tell Goku to hurry up. You need to do this, hurry up. Yeah, if it goes to 0, like Javier said, there's a lose condition. The game is over. You can restart if you want or exit the game.
So again, another lose condition is if you lose all your health. So like Josh was saying, the enemies, they do affect your health. So if you get attacked enough times, as you can see, the health is really low currently for Goku. And in a few seconds he will die.
And he's dead. Oh no, Cyberman killed you.
And so each lose condition is, the scene is different
There's
as
a
well.
different scene for each lose condition. So if you go into water, there's a...
Oh, you drown.
Yeah, you drown.
So like you saw over there, the Cyberman one.
There's about 6 scenes for like these loop conditions. And this is the win condition. That's the last one. So the win condition is actually to get a score of about 2,000, and only then you can collect the Dragon Ball. You can't just go and collect the Dragon Ball. So your score should be, actually the health should be more than 0, and your score should be 2,000 exactly. If not, you can't actually win the game. Yeah, also the timer should be more than 1 minute or 0, 0.
You have to meet all the conditions
Yeah,
to win.
there's about 3 conditions you have to meet to actually win this game. Yeah, he's gonna go to collect the last food item. That's gonna make it 2,000 here. That's it, and it's gonna come down. That's the animation on the Dragon Ball. And only then you can collect it. And there's like enemies here.
You didn't want to make it too easy.
And that should be a win screen now. Go. He's looking.
Just waiting. Waiting for the right moment.
There we go. Yeah, really strong. Yeah.
Right, so as Joshi touched on a bit earlier with the needs and wants, we had many of these that we wanted to get in the game. But the main focus was to get a game that is playable, so with a win condition and a lose condition, and a bit of a challenge in it as well. So, as you can see, the main character is Goku, and we needed a decent level design, enough to navigate around to make it doable. As you can see here, we've got a little pattern going on. Basic movements, player needs to be able to move forward, backwards, left, right, jump up and down. We had a bit of a issue working on how we were going to make the movement work with the camera. So we ended up putting the camera behind the player. So really, you look where your left and right is, where you look with the mouse. The special attack, we was going between fighting or just having a Kai Blast itself. And we stuck with the Kai Blast for, that's quite iconic for Goku to have. And we multiple types of food that we wanted for the score to go up. So we got those in. And we needed an enemy to give a bit of a challenge to the game along with the timer we have. So we have the enemy coming in, he spawns around the map. It's not difficult to defeat, but he is there and he can kill you. and then at the end of the game, the Dragon Ball, which is to complete the level.
So along with the need, like we touched on earlier, because of time constraints and skill constraints, we had quite a few wants that we weren't able to actually implement. So currently the enemies are quite basic. There's only one type of enemy, and they don't vary in difficulty. What we wanted was much stronger enemies, and where the actual Dragon Ball is, we would have preferred to have a different character. The game level, we were going to have more than one game level. Currently, as this is just a prototype, one level. Another thing is quite iconic for Goku's flying. More attacks would have been more beneficial. Non-food items would have been better to add a bit of flavor to the game. The Nimbus is quite iconic for Goku as well. It's a flying cloud that Goku used to sit on. And a pause screen, which we ran out of time to implement.
So, from when I initially mentioned, we did the survey to get our idea on how people would find using our game and what sort of demographic we can focus our game towards. So as you can see here, we general questions about the age range to see what sort of age you were going for and to see what sort of platform is best suited for this type of game or people would prefer to play it on. And then we looked at genres to see whether we were going to make more of a shoot 'em up game or an action game. And a lot of people like the action adventure, which is kind of about what Mario is about, a platformer / action adventure type game. So that helped us go through there. And just general questions on whether or not we were going to make the game available on handheld consoles, because a lot of people like to play games on the phone, especially games which don't have a lot of levels and it's a pretty simple design. And then if they're into games that have video game crossovers, that's just what our main goal of our game was. And then we looked at if people in general liked Dragon Ball Z, the anime, because that was half of our game. And if they played Super Mario, and generally most people have played Super Mario or seen Super Mario. And then it's how they think the game would be integrated. Would they like a game? Because not everyone likes things to mix up, everyone likes things to stay the same. But mainly a good response. Some people have said didn't really like them separate, but in general we had a fairly good response on wanting to make the game work.
Just to add on to what he was saying, we surveyed a participant of 55 people, so to get a wider range of opinions.
And then this is our survey we took after the game was completed, just for our testing purposes and possibly future upgrades. And generally people took no more than 5 minutes to get into the game, which is fairly good. Either that's usually because they either died by going to the first level, because the time limit's only 4 minutes, so they would have had to play again. But generally it didn't take too long to get into the game, which is a good thing. You don't want people to struggle too much and lose interest. And the main elements of the game which stood out was generally having a time limit to play against, and having the enemies chase you, being able to collect the food for the score, just giving lots of different conditions that you have to do to win the game, people generally liked. The mini-map and lots of little things with the UI were also quite liked. And then we had if there was anything missing from the game. Generally it was a 50-50. Most people liked what was there already. Some people gave some hints and tips, more levels, which was one of our wants, which we would hopefully add in the future. As you said, the idea of this was the first Dragon Ball, there's 7 more to collect, so there's more levels to come from that. Few more graphics, few more things to add. Maybe, I said, different levels would have different terrains, which would mean different objects in the level. The pause menu, that's one of our wants as well. Maybe making the game a bit more harder. Again, that could become with higher levels, more difficulty, different enemies. And yeah, that was mainly game took to finish 5 to 10 minutes max. Some people went to 15, don't really know what they were doing after 20 minutes. But I say we handed it out to loads of wide age range of people, so I guess the younger individuals may have found it harder to play the game. The length of the game was generally 0 was too short, 10 was too long. we was hoping to get a good high amount around the middle, which we did. Some people found it a bit longer, but generally everyone liked the length of the game and how long it took to complete the level. And then it was how their experience would be if they played the game again for a second time, which
5 minutes.
was quite enjoyable. Then we had a look at the controls for the game, and generally no one really had an issue with the controls. Controls are quite straightforward. It's commonly used WSD and a mouse to move around. It's quite simple. And a lot of people found the controls quite easy. And then we had a last one on how they found the enemy AI. And in general, they liked the AI, felt he ran after you, did what he was supposed to do, didn't really get stuck or anywhere, which was quite good.
74% is really good. Quite good.
I mean, yeah, quite good. So.
Yeah, so we want people to actually play our game and keep on playing our game. So we want people to actually spread the game around, and like spreading the game around actually builds more like audience for the game. So we had to make, actually we are going to make future improvements to the game to increase the playability of the game. So like Javier said before, enemies, they need to be stronger. That's what we feel. We need a final boss and different type of enemies with different abilities. So the enemies we have right now, they just have a swipe attack. They just walk towards you and you get damaged, which is fairly simple, but we need something more than that. They need to attack us. Yeah, full screen.
Another improvement that we suggested would be a pause screen, since it's time. So if you pause it for a sec so you can come back to the game. Well, we originally did have a pause screen, but we ran out of time to actually implement it. And would you like
to add to what Farin said, we actually do have a pause screen, but we didn't actually have time to implement the pause screen in the game. So, okay.
Again, like I said, one of the needs were the ones were like the Nimbus and more levels and stuff. It's just, as you can see, it's quite a few things that we did want, but we just couldn't implement. Any questions?
Really like the way that you set up the slides and stuff. You look really
Okay.
professional.
Thank you.
Any
Yeah,
more
artistic.
questions? Karen? Dave? And then you have
Any
more
questions
questions.
for us?
No questions, Martin? So you had the health bar, and then underneath of it you had that little lightning blue bar.
That's
Did you
it.
did you explain that? Did I miss that? What was that?
We didn't know.
No.
So that was the energy bar. So that was meant to work in correlation with the food. So you're also collecting the food for increasing the energy.
So as you play the game, it decreases the health bar.
Okay.
As you collect the food, I don't think we covered
Energy bar.
The energy bar. Sorry, the blue bar.
Yeah.
As you play the game, it decreases the value.
So then when you get food, then it replenishes it a bit. So that's like simulating hunger and fatigue or something like that.
But the rate at which it decreases is very slow.
Really slow.
So because there's loads of food items, you don't really notice it go down.
You already have a time limit,
Yeah.
so then having that as well, it could be that you could have one or the other. If that energy bar was decreasing at a rapid pace, well, that would spur the player on to collect things as quickly as possible, maybe in a way similar as an external timer. But you didn't really need that in order to spur the player on because you had the timer in place.
As a future upgrade, another level could be that he's running out of energy and he needs to get the
Well,
food.
Could be much more.
Well, the timer is an artificial constraint. It's just, you as the player, you see the timer there and it's spurring you along. But if you were to, but hunger is an internal natural thing. So then if you were to make it so that that bar runs low as your character gets hungrier and more, then that would be a natural motivator for the character to move on and collect these things, and then perhaps the timer would no longer be necessary.
That's
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, we should
implement that.
we need to try implementing that.
Yeah.
Okay, but otherwise, you had a lot of things in place in order to spur the player on and to get the player actively engaged within the environment. You had obstacles, both environmental, and you had some enemy characters that were also, there for the player to react to. There were objectives to the game, and I liked your idea of putting in a boss character. Seeing that long bridge between the Dragon Ball and the player character. Yeah, having some like boss character that is somehow. You said that water was a way that the character can perish.
Yeah.
So if some way there was a boss character that pushed your character off the bridge as he was trying to get there, then that would probably that makes sense in the context of what you've already developed. But otherwise, solid game idea, and it looked like you guys had coordinated effectively in order to meet the needs of your project proposal. So. I'm happy with your efforts, and well done. Yeah, very good.